And Anna, take one.
What brought you to Rochester?
I grew up in a family where no one went to college initially, so I'm actually a first-generation college goer.
Oh, wow.
And I had two older brothers, and they both attended University of Rochester.
Okay.
So I think I was 10 years old when I first walked onto this campus. So it just seemed like a natural place. Like when I grow up, I'm gonna go there as well. My brothers just love this place. And just every time they would come home during Christmas break or during spring break, would just be so happy, and I could see how much smarter they were getting almost in real time.
Yeah, I certainly feel that way after 4 years. So it's interesting, how did you decide you wanted to go into research?
The first 2 years I was here, I was a molecular genetics major. I took the classes with the pre-meds and just kind of went through that process. And I enjoyed it, but I didn't know what I loved. And I remember actually the moment, and it's bizarre, right? So I think junior year, I took one of the gene expression classes. It was my first graduate level class where there were like PhD students in it. I was terrified. And it was a team taught course where there were different professors that came out.
Yeah.
And there was this elderly guy, Terry Platt was his name. He actually is retired now, but he was in the biochemistry department for, 30 years.
Wow.
And he was an RNA biologist. I had heard of RNA in class, but I never really thought much about it.
Yeah.
And he walked out the first day of his 3 lectures, and he started to talk about bacterial RNA termination, like the weirdest, most esoteric part of RNA biology.
Yeah.
And I sat in the back because I was like a cool kid. I didn't sit in the front. And once he started talking, it was like poetry coming out of his mouth. And I was in a fraternity on campus, and I went back to the frat house that day, and I told everyone about RNA, and everyone there was like, "You're weird, man. Why is that cool?" And I called my girlfriend that night, who's now my wife, and she didn't go here. Yeah, I was dating her in college, and I told her all about RNA, and she said pretty much the same thing, like, that sounds totally boring. But from that moment on, that's what I did. I knew right away. The next 2 lectures, I sat down in the front row, and I just sat there taking notes, and he could tell I was the only one interested in that entire room. But from that moment on, that's all I've done.
Wow, I love that.
So now, we've heard a lot about what I've been doing here when I was back at your age. What are your plans? Like, what about your experience at Rochester is fueling the next steps for you?
Yeah, I think one of the big reasons I picked Rochester was because of its emphasis on research. And originally I came into Rochester thinking I wanted to just go to medical school, just be a clinical physician, and that was it. But I actually joined a lab at the medical center here, and I realized, oh my goodness, I love research, and I definitely want to do that as part of my career as well. So I'm taking a gap year, and I'm going to be doing a research program before going on to a research-based MD program. There's a couple 5-year programs around the country where you can spend another year focused on research, and hopefully I'll be an academic physician at some point.
So how strong has your experience been at Rochester to sort of help you, enable you to go do that? Like, what do you think were some of the best things that you experienced here?
Wow, I think Rochester is really a powerhouse for research. I think the labs are very accessible here. Everyone that I know who's wanted to go into research has been able to find a position somewhere. And I was really lucky. I got into a really small lab here, the Astapova lab, and I had a really great mentor, several mentors in that lab. And I've been there for the last, I think 3.5 years.
Wow, so that's a long experience.
It's a long experience, and I've gotten to see papers, from start to finish be published in that lab. I've gotten to go to conferences and present my work, and it really just affirmed for me that I really like research, but I think also the coursework really affirmed that for me as well, especially the biochem upper level courses where there's a lot of different professors that come in and talk about their own work and the niche topics that they study, and it was really helpful for me to see that and realize, wow, I'm interested in that too, and I want to do that too.
I'll tell you, when I was a senior in college, I didn't think deeply about what I wanted to do next. I sort of heard about PhD and again, I grew up in a family where no one really had these degrees. Yeah. So I just sort of stumbled my way, I would say, through it. The research I did here, I didn't realize how powerful it was. I did 2 years of research and then wrote that into my college essays and my grad school essays. And then when I applied, I got into every graduate school. here I was not even sure that was something I wanted to do. And then the response was every place said, oh, you're perfect. I just didn't realize what U of R was giving me at the time. I guess my point is you're so aware of it. And we were just kind of, there was no internet when I was in 1997. So just, I'm older than you think. But yeah, then when I left U of R, I went to Duke for my PhD.
Oh, wow.
And you know, it's an amazing school. It's on par with Rochester. But what struck me is I was so intimidated when I got there because it was the best of the best. You know, there were undergraduates from Harvard who had went to Duke, you know, all over the country. And I felt like I was one of the strongest students there walking in the door. Every month I was at Duke, I looked back at Rochester and with just more and more respect.
I've noticed that myself, a lot of the courses here really, they're not concerned with you memorizing information, but more with teaching you how to think. And I think that really translates into something like a PhD program where it's all about solving problems.
Absolutely. When you get a PhD, you have to know how to critically think, as you said. The answers aren't always in books. Yeah. You need to learn that at age 18, 19, and 20, so it's more innate and more natural. You know, many times when we do discovery science, we do experiments and get results that we might be the first people who have ever seen that data before.
Exactly.
So you can't go look it up,
Nope.
right? You have to learn how to think through all those problems, and a place like this really helps a lot.
Exactly. I agree. You want to be the one, I guess, discovering the information to write the next textbook. So.
Excellent. So Anna, fast forward 10 years from now, where do you see yourself working, and what sort of things do you think you'd be interested in doing?
Yeah, I think 10 years from now, I'll probably just be starting out in my career as an academic physician. Hopefully I'll be conducting my own research in a lab, probably with ties to what I'm seeing in the clinic, whatever specialty I choose at that point. And I'm really excited for that moment where I get to really steer my own research. I think Rochester has really prepared me for that moment. Yeah.
You know, in many ways I'm jealous because these are like the 10 most exciting years of your academic life, right? And I can remember almost every one of them from age, 20 to 30. So much, you think you're at sort of a terminal intelligence now, but there's so many more levels that are above that you just will experience and feel. It's a great time.
That's exciting. And what about for you? When you finally retire, what do you hope your legacy will be?
What I would like people to realize when I finally hang it up is the value of sort of basic research, or discovery research as we like to call it. I wish the public could understand that there's a continuum to research. There's a pipeline where you need people to do ask basic questions and figure out how the fundamentals of life work. And once they do that, then you can study the disease state when the fundamentals are disrupted, and you need people to do that. And then finally, you can have the people who focus on therapy, right? And I hope the population understands you need people at all those levels.
Right.
And I will say, I don't get to be around patients very often, like hopefully you will be. I know you will be. But I think it's important for what I do. My strength, the way I think, works very well to just ask those fundamental questions. And I have faith that at some point it will impact a patient. I just hope the public sort of can look back and realize that I played a role in those early steps.
Well, thank you for meeting with me today.
Yeah, likewise, Ann. I think you have a really great future ahead of you, and I'm happy you came to this great school, and I, of course, agree because I went through the same path, and I look forward to reading about your wonderful work down the road.
I appreciate that. Thank you.